Morning, everybody. Nice to see all the faces out here in the crowd. We're here today for me to share what we do and how we prepare for any and every kind of disaster that could possibly come into our lives and affect how we live and what we do. I've been asked this year to add into the slide in the very beginning and talk about active shooter. So I know Joe's been mentioning this week after week, and it's something that we're talking about with management and all of our different teams and everything. I actually ran through this morning with my staff down in the maintenance department. Active shooter is defined as an individual or person actually engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. In most cases, active shooters use firearms, and there is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. Emergent lockdown response. It's something that's probably going to get put out and go to staff immediately upon the situation happening. There's no real pre-planning for it because it's an active situation that's going to happen instantaneously. So as staff, we run through different scenarios and drills with them, what they need to look at, depending on what the building is and the location of it is, who goes and starts to secure doors so people cannot enter, and who assists in different areas to make sure that the people around them are safe. First thing you think about doing is trying to run. You leave the area of the situation if possible. You want to try to make sure that you immediately find and move to a safe location if possible. And along that route and path, if you come across anybody, encourage them and try to get them to come with you. And do this only if it's safe to do. As you do leave the area and you get to a safe area and you have a method of being able to call 911, please do. Notify the authorities. If you're unable to get to a safe place, the next thing you got to think about is where you're going to hide. How are you going to hide? I thought about it in this building this morning. If something were to happen, where would we go to? Where would we hide? We have lots of rooms that we could go into. We could lock doors to those rooms. And as you hide and lock doors, you want to block windows, close curtains, turn off lights, turn off anything that would make a sound or noise, TVs, phones, radios, anything that would indicate that you're in that space to hide in. I looked at the columns behind there. That's something you can hide behind the room here. Any of the little niches over where Candace is, that's something you could get into and hide at. Behind a wall, something solid structure. Most of the time you're not going to know if that's a block wall, framed wall, or whatever that might be. But as you're running and hiding, and now you're hiding, if you are able to put a call out to 911, do that also. Even if it's a case where you're not comfortable speaking because of alerting somebody where you're at, dial the phone and leave an open phone line. 911 with no answer will listen to that, and they'll send responders to that location of that phone if they can identify that phone number and trace where that location is. If you're hiding, though, you also have to think about being ready to fight or defend yourself in case you are found. So in the space you're in, look for anything you could use or grab to defend yourself, whether that be a fire extinguisher, a chair, a metal rod, just whatever it might be, because if you are found, your last resort is to fight. So if it ends up being a fight, be prepared and think about that as you are at any point in time where you're at. I'm going to show a couple videos here. The first video is going to be in the healthcare setting, and it's going to go through exactly the steps that I just talked about. And then we're going to run a second video that shows going through in more of an office type setting. Okay?
Hello, my name is James Polk. I'm a manager of safety and security for Baptist Memorial Healthcare. The training video you are about to see will help prepare you in the event of an active shooter scenario on any of our campuses or office locations. Active shooter scenarios are unpredictable and they evolve quickly. Therefore, it is important to have a plan and be familiar with it. Baptist Memorial utilizes Run, Hide, Fight, a federal national response program to active shooter scenarios. This training will be brought to your units so you can see where to run, where to hide, and if you absolutely have to, what are your weapons of opportunity to fight. Baptist Memorial leadership is committed to provide a safe environment. However, if the unpredictable occurs, this training video will help you save lives.
An active shooter incident can occur in your facility on any day at any time.
Excuse me. Yeah, where's 214 at?
214 is right down there.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything we need to know about?
No.
Pain?
What was that? Oh my God, what was that? Say noise, what's going on? Come on, this way, let's go.
You have just seconds to react and 3 actions you can take to help make yourself safe. Run, hide, or fight.
What was that? What was that?
Staff, let's go. Let's go. This way. This way.
Come on.
This way. Hurry, 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 hurry.
If you can evacuate the area, leave immediately. Don't bother to take anything with you. Encourage others to go with you, but if they don't follow, don't wait.
That.
No.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being stay here, stay quiet.
If you're with a patient who cannot escape with you, discontinue care and leave. If you can, secure the patient room upon exiting. Do not stop to help the wounded. Exit the area immediately. When exiting, keep your hands raised and visible. If you encounter anyone else, warn them not to go into the area. Avoid pointing, screaming, or yelling while evacuating. If law enforcement is present, follow their orders. Move a safe distance away from the facility. If law enforcement has not arrived, follow your facility's procedures for reporting the incident. This may be to call 911, call facility security, or press a panic button if the area is equipped with one. Make the report even if you think someone else already has. Do not attempt to re-enter the scene until law enforcement has given an all-clear announcement.
Say noise, what's going on? Come on, this way, let's go.
Depending upon the situation and where you are, your best option may be to hide. The best hiding place is one that is out of the shooter's view, provides protection from gunfire, and doesn't trap you or restrict your movement. Block the door to prevent the shooter from entering and hide behind large objects like cabinets or desks. Remain silent.
Yeah, this is Dr. Shooter in hospital.
Follow your facility's procedures for reporting the incident, but only if making the call won't give away your position to the shooter. If anyone with you is injured, do what you can to attend to them while remaining hidden. But while you are hiding, you must also think through what you will do if the shooter finds you. Although it should be your last resort, prepare to fight the attacker. If your life is in imminent danger, prepare to fight. Your goal is to disrupt or incapacitate the shooter. Even yelling or throwing objects can help by confusing the shooter and making it harder to aim. Act as aggressively as possible. Your commitment to your actions will mean the difference between life and death. Think of run, hide, fight as more than just what to do when faced with an active shooter. It can be a way of thinking about your surroundings every day. Whether you are always in the same place or you change locations frequently, make it a point to know key features of your environment. Know where the exits are, including stairwells. Know what rooms can be secured and locked. Know how to lock down your area or unit if possible. Pay attention to where phones are. Find out if the facility has panic buttons and where they're located. Know your facility's procedures for reporting an incident so you know who to call and what to say before you ever have to pick up the phone. Be aware of people around you. Keep in mind that an active shooter won't fit any specific profile. He or she may look like any other visitor, patient, or coworker you might encounter on any given day. Make run, hide, fight your mindset every day and train yourself to make it your strategy for survival.
What I will be speaking to you about today is hiding inside a patient's room during an active shooter scenario. If you face a situation with no other choice but to hide inside a patient's room, what would you do? Inside of a patient's room, there are a multitude of things to be accomplished. First, turn off the lights. Second, turn off the TV. And third, close the blinds if the room is equipped with them. During an active shooter situation, time is of essence. If you have an opportunity to barricade yourself inside a patient's room, that is exactly what you need to do. First, unplug the bed and move the bed to barricade against the door. Second, lock the wheels, preventing the bed from moving and the door being pushed open. Once the bed is in place and the wheels locked, find any heavy objects and place them behind the bed. The more the better. If you are hiding, you must be prepared to fight. You must assess the room for any items that can be used to fight. A weapon of opportunity is the IV pole. You can take this workstation on wheel and actually ram it into the suspect, or you could take this scanner and use it as a weapon. If you're barricaded inside of a room, be prepared. You may be there a long period of time. You will stay inside these areas until you get the all clear, which will be announced by our PBX operators. We hope after viewing this active shooter video, you feel more equipped to handle a situation if it does occur.
It's going to go through the same exact items that you had, but we wanted to put both of the two settings into the presentation today.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority.
No, stop that guy! Stop that guy! Hey!
Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911.
Yes, sir. 1002 Washington Street, Church Road, Fight. Help us!
If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Our safety is all of our responsibilities. So as we think about our safety every day, make sure that we're doing all the basic things that we know to do, that we've been raised to do on it. Make sure that we're locking our doors, locking our cars, not leaving keys in vehicles, and making sure that we're always kind of thinking forward. If you're going to run into a situation of any type, what is it that I'm going to do and how am I going to react? All right, emergencies and disasters. We look at disasters many different ways, not only as hurricanes, and we'll take a few minutes to go over the different types of scenarios, natural disasters and human events. Human events is what we just touched on, and we'll go over even a few more. Natural disasters, things listed on the slide, are things that could come up for. Many of those items we've had in our village and we've had to deal with throughout the time of that, and our staff and everyone is committed to make sure that we react properly with management, going through scenarios with our staff all the time to keep them aware of what needs to take occurrence when we do run into these situations, whether it's one that we can pre-plan for or it's something that comes up immediately and we have to take the action at that very moment to take care of it. A few others of the disasters we go to, and again, being in Florida, the hurricanes are the big one, and we're coming right up on that season again. We take our guidance from Joe Trainer, our Chief Administrating Officer, who does keep us all abreast of it, and all of our directors review our policies and procedures going into the hurricane season, and then we go down to the managers and supervisors to make sure that our staff are all aware of what to do. Human events, just touched on the active shooter one, and the list of the human events below: a hostage situation, a suspicious package, missing person, something of a civil disturbance. See something, say something. I know you've heard that before being said to you. I say that to my staff every meeting that I have with them. It's one of the ways I end my meetings, is see something, say something. All of our eyes out there looking all the time is a great addition to the protection of our community. Equipment failures that I get to do with. I know I just ran through 2 water scenarios here in the last 10 days. I had a water line break on Sweet Gum Drive, and then I had one of our sanitary pumps for our water plant go down, and I had to do a slow flush of the water system to make sure that we got that circulated all the way out to the farthest ends of our water system. But HVAC failures, I know people, all of you have gone through that, either here or somewhere else where your HVAC quits working on it. And again, we have different practices and plans already in place to address any of these types of equipment failures and disasters that we may go through. Water system, if you don't know, we run a water system, water plant out here in the village. It serves just about 73-75% of our village comes off of our water plant. Our water is tested daily for the sanitation levels of it, and we have an outside contractor that also is checking that on a daily basis, plus our staff. If anything happens to that water plant, we have companies that we automatically call to get it back up and going, and we also have in our village an interconnect valve with Orange City, so that if our water plant does fail, we're able to turn on to Orange City water and keep water in our village. And in the case of something that would have to put out a boil notice water, I know I've had to do that a few times over my years on it, that notice will go out to everybody in the areas that it is affected in. Hurricane season, a little bit of data just showing what has happened in the past and what a normal season looks like. Pretty used to it. This season's being predicted to be a pretty normal season. So far, I haven't seen the numbers jump up any bigger than that. It's always something we can't predict. I know last year we had many storms. They started early and they ended late. Anybody's name on this? Not mine. So if your name's on it, we're going to pick on you if you come and visit us. But that is the official list of the names of all of our hurricanes. And of course, if they go through that scenario and we get all those, then they'll go on to add the other names to it. Some basics of what to do. Do you think about and do you plan for disaster? All of you have a responsibility to make sure that you do plan for disaster and make sure and understand, okay, how am I going to contact my loved ones before, during, and after their storm? How will you check the village and know if you've left the village, it's safe to come back? We will go over a lot of these scenarios as I go through these slides and give the basic answers to those things and the things that we think about and how we communicate and what we do for the basics of what we do. So in contacting everybody on it, I'm going to stress many times through this slide that you have your cell phones charged and ready to go, and make sure that all your cell phones and any way of contacting you is part of your permanent record kept up with Vicki up in the front office. Make sure that you've updated that recently. Make sure if anything has changed on it that you get up and you update it so that we are able to get in contact with you. And that's a thing that I'll touch several times during this slide. Battery backups for cell phones. Great thing to have. If you're out without power, I know I use it quite a bit when we're into the hurricane type situation. Sometimes I just have one carrying with me when I'm traveling in case I'm not able to plug into a car or plug into a wall outlet on it. Battery backups are a great thing to do. Also, if you have a landline phone, forward that phone. If you have to leave, forward that to your cell phone so that you get messages and things from us if we're communicating to you that way. Always, always, always have a plan for yourselves. Make sure that you think about the supplies that you need on hand. Make sure that your medicine, if we're going to a pre-planned hurricane, that you make sure you have enough medicine on hand for what you do. If you're pre-planning, truly, you can have that empty suitcase filled with items that you might have to take with you to get relocated in a very quick time or manner. We are a stay-in-place, shelter-in-place community. Unless we get told to by a government agent that we have to evacuate the community, we are going to do everything we can to keep everybody in place in here. And that will come up again, and you'll see that on through this slide presentation. So all year long, and especially going into hurricane season, we will have meetings with our staff. Mr. Trainer will have meetings with his executive team, and we'll distribute that down to our managers and everybody as we go through and plan for this upcoming hurricane season. We communicate to residents through coffee with meetings like this, Joe's chats. We do it through our portal that you can look at on your computer. We use our village alert line, abbreviated as the VAL system, that calls up and sends out messages for everybody. And then during times that we have to go door to door, we will go door to door and do wellness checks or pass out and leave flyers and information to communicate to residents. When the VALs are called, I believe they all come through our main number, which is 386-775-3840. People, family and friends that aren't here, they can watch our website during disaster type things. We put updates regularly out on the website, and we also do that through Facebook. Keep security informed. If you decide to leave your unit and just go stay with somebody else, make sure that security is aware of that. If you leave the village, as you all hopefully do every time you leave the village for a period of time, that you're making sure that security knows that you're leaving the village, so that we're able to make sure that we know who's here and who's not here and where you permanently should be staying at. Our executive staff looks at all that, and we share that information down to all of our employees. I know I strive to make a culture with my team that whatever it takes to get the job done, that's what we do. We have that culture throughout our village in every single department. We make sure that we take our direct directive from Joe Trainer, our Chief Administrating Officer. We'll put out the notifications, we'll plan the events, pre-planning of it. During the event, he'll have meetings to make sure that everything's being taken care of and everybody is safe in our village. And at the end of that event, he'll put out the all clears to make sure that we can resume and get back to normal. And that's for every different type of disaster that happens and has happened throughout our village. Everyone here is committed to work to keep everybody safe. We are regulated by the federal, state, and county. All those things that have to be updated on a quarterly, annual, semi-annual basis are all done and taken care of. We actually participate in drills at different levels from the county and the state and federal departments when they hold any type of drill that we can participate in for our healthcare communities and for anything out there. We go ahead and participate in them, and we keep our plans and our notifications all updated with all those companies. We also, through all the different departments, we make sure that our vendors and contractors, that we have agreements and we have able to rely on them when we run into any type of disaster, that they're going to make sure that John Knox Village is their priority to come in and take care of. And as we go into the hurricane season, I know I reach out to all my vendors and contractors just to make sure they're still on board with this, that they haven't gone to some other community or picked up some insurance contract or whatever may happen, to make sure that I am able to make that phone call at any point in time and know that I'll have them here immediately to make sure we're able to take care of anything that we need to take care of. Items to keep on hand. I'm a flashlight guy. I love flashlights. I give flashlights away at Christmas, buy all sizes, all brightnesses, and everything of that. So flashlights and battery backups are a big thing. Battery backup can be, you can go buy a solar panel now that will charge a battery that you can plug a light into. You can buy other types of battery backups depending on the size and cost that you want to spend on them that could run a couple lights in your home, and one's even big enough to run a refrigerator for it. So those are great options to look at. Personally, you have to make that decision if that expenditure is something that you want to do. I like flashlights that you can have on your refrigerator. There's flashlights that you can have double-sided tape on that look just like a light switch that you could have in your bathroom for power outages and things like that. I have an array of flashlights in front of us that we get. The red and clear one down there is a floating flashlight, but it's also a strobe light at the same time. So multi-purpose lights that act for different things and different reasons on it. Just a great thing, but with flashlights come batteries. So make sure that you regularly check your batteries, replace your batteries on them, or have the battery tested to make sure that it still has the proper voltage to be able to run your product. Having a weather radio, portable weather radio, hand cranked on hand, is a great way to be able to keep updated on it. If you're able to get text messages and alerts from our local news stations, another great way to have information given to you from authorities that are watching the disasters and things of that nature. I use Weather Channel. I also use NOAA, are the two sources I go to for weather events and information on the storms. They're very accurate. They're updated on a regular basis on it, and they give you really good positive information. Your medication makes sure that, again, going into a pre-planned event like a hurricane, that you've taken inventory of it and that you've got enough stock to, typically everybody buys in 30 or 90 days, so make sure that you're not at the end of that medication and that you get it restocked. For all our pet owners out there, if your pet has to relocate with you or needs to be kept somewhere else, make sure that you have a pet cage for it to keep it in. And then your necessities, towels, washcloths, clothing, of that nature. Our stationary generators are automatic generators that come on if they'll lose power. There's one at the water plant. There's one for commons, assisted living, that give those two buildings full power so that we can keep our kitchens running, we can keep our administration going, and we can take care of our healthcare residents. That generator also gives emergency power to all three of the apartment buildings, Audubon, Bay, and Citrus. It gives only hallway lights, staircase lights, and runs our elevators in those buildings during a power outage. And then Majestic Oaks also has a permanent in-place automatic generator that comes on and gives that building full power. What that does do is enables us to be able to have refrigerators and things of that nature in case we have to keep medication that needs to be cold. Also, if you've been through this, which I know a lot of you have, we have charging stations for phones when the rest of the village is out of power that we can bring phones to and plug into and keep phones and things of that nature. I have a lot of other little portable generators that we distribute out to our gatehouses to be able to keep our gatehouses manned, and distribute out to our lift stations so that we can keep our sewer system up and running for it. And the other things listed there are some of the basic equipment that we have down in the grounds facilities department area. Our maintenance crew and grounds crew, as we go into the season, we've already looked at our sandbags, made sure that we have restocked that from last year's usage of those on it, and in advanced preparation, Joe always tells me, I'm the first one to call him because I watch and get nervous and say, hey, this is coming. So I start way out in advance, sometimes at a week out or more, to start talking to my teams to make sure that we start thinking about what's going to be the process to go through and make sure that everything in the village is safe. And for those of you that have been with us, you know that we come through and we'll pull everything down and put everything up close to buildings. Golf carts that you own, once we get into that, know that it's coming in that 48 hours or so. That will get you to pull that golf cart up close to your house or in between the units and things of that nature. And even at the time of the storm, we have places to relocate cars away from the cottages and take those into open areas within our village to help prevent damage from debris and trees for it. And we continue to monitor that all the way through and during. We test everything. Our generators are tested every month. In the case of a storm, they're tested again, even if we just ran that test. They're tested again to make sure that they're there. I constantly am out evaluating our property. We had lots of things to clean up after last year, and we're just in the tail end of doing our last round in the village to lift the canopies of our trees to allow wind to blow under it and not catch the trees as much as possible. We still have another few days of that going on throughout the village. I love everybody because you're looking, you're watching, we get the calls, hey, there's a dead limb above my house. And even if I do all of that, on a perfectly sunny day, we'll have a limb fall down. We'll have a tree split in half. So even with all of that, it still happens. It happened to me less than 2 weeks ago, I know. I got a call on South Lake where a big limb had broken off of a tree. Perfectly green, healthy, solid wood inside of it. In fact, the tree trimmers had just lifted the canopy on it. I know we've had a limb just recently fall on a vehicle, and those things will happen. You know, during that, we're gonna pre-place sandbags at places that we know that we need to put them to help keep water intrusion out of people's units. Between the grounds and maintenance staff, that's what they do in the pre-planning of this. I know every other department between healthcare, security, food service, everybody has their roles to play in pre-planning it to make sure that we have enough food on stock to service and keep us going and fed during it. And all of our other things are done, and making sure that all the different facilities have the proper supplies to handle it and make sure that we're ready to shelter in place. As the storm gets closer and we're down into that day to 2 days before of it, we are totally monitoring along with you, all the different stations, listening to it, trying to learn the direction and anticipate what it's going to do and how bad it's going to be in our area. Do your last minute checks of your flashlights, make sure they're happening. We have already started our strobe light distribution this year, and we're on track and scheduled to have them all put out by June 1st. And I just dropped the clicker and the battery fell out. Strobe light. Everybody hopefully has seen these before. If you're new to the village, this is a strobe light that's going to end up at your front door, typically in your mailbox. You'll have a sheet of paper that gives you instructions on how to operate it. It's very simple. There's a dial at the flashlight end of it, and they're going to have a mark on it, a little dot. Some will have red, some have black. One way that you turn it on, that little strobe light's going to be flashing. And I know it's not a perfect system, but if you are out of power, our emergency system, pull cords, pinnets, all that communicate through battery-operated devices throughout the village. And 45 minutes to an hour and a half is your typical battery life of those devices once they lose power on it. So this is what we have in place, that you all will have one of these. Keep them in a drawer or cabinet or countertop and be ready to put this out and hang it or set it out front of your front door, so that if any employee or staff goes by and sees this flashing, that we're able to come to your unit and find out what it is that you need to be used during emergency situations and be used during power outages. That last 24 hours, at this time, we've done all of our major things out in the village, and that's for the whole company, all of our staffs and all of our departments. We've got the planning done. At this point in time, we're doing those last-minute checks. Maybe even at that time is when we're moving cars and getting them to a safe place. Always be aware of our valve system, because that is a big communication to it. On top of that, the portal and the scrolls on your TV on there on our John Knox Village channel for it. Have your evacuation kits ready, and we will listen to state or governmental officials if we're told to evacuate. We stay as a shelter-in-place community. What happens if your power goes out on the refrigerator? Well, I just go keep opening it, closing it, getting food out, and then I call and go, it's hot in my refrigerator. One thought is, and a couple things I'll share, I guess. I've always heard that if you put a cup of water, plastic container of water in it, and in the freezer, and put a coin on top of that, at any point in time that your refrigerator loses power, that will show you that your ice is melted and the coin will drop to the bottom. Use bottled water jugs, gallon jugs, empty milk jugs, fill that with water and freeze it, have it in your freezer. It will help a little bit to move some into your refrigerator for limited items, especially if you can get things consolidated around it, is a good thing to do for helping keep your refrigerator closed. And the best thing is to only open it when necessary. And if you're going into a storm time or going into our hurricane season, I know some of us never like to throw anything away, but clean out your refrigerator a little bit. Keep as little things in there as possible. Don't think about the day before the hurricane going and just filling it up full of stuff, because there is that possibility to lose power, and whatever you just bought is going to end up being lost through a power outage. You lose power. Flashlights, any type of device. Lanterns are a great flashlight. You can set those just about anywhere. That most of them are just a simple pull up and down for brightness. They'll light up a room in a heartbeat. They're just great a thing. You see right up on top there, big capital letters, do not use candles for light. Okay? We don't want to catch anything on fire. Villas, I know we have some residents that have generators in the villas. That is allowed because you have a garage and able to store that. You do have to make us aware that you do have that and are going to be using it, and you have to be courteous of your neighbor, having that far enough away from the house so that during a power outage, what does everybody do? They open their windows, and so you got to make sure that the fumes from a generator don't end up affecting you or a neighbor. Just like you hear, don't run a generator in a closed garage. It's the same thing outside. You got to make sure that that thing is at a good, comfortable distance, probably 10, 15, 20 feet away from any window that exhaust from your generator might be able to go into. I threw in there the frozen bottles of water also on that slide, and making sure that you keep your refrigerators closed as much as possible. Very, very important to keep our healthcare, your healthcare, updates with the community so that we know whether you're on oxygen. Oxygen, if you are, make sure that you maybe up your portable bottles of oxygen if we know we're going to go into a storm of some type on it. Make sure that we have all that information there, and also that you're communicating with the healthcare staff to make sure that if you need other assistance or that we have to pre-plan, and I know we do that regularly when we go into these type of situations, we reach out to you and we'll relocate you to a different location to make sure that we're being able to take care of your needs. Again, very regulated. All the healthcare plans get approved at different levels of county, state, and federal on it. I know one of our departments, Oak Park, they make sure that they have medications stock to make sure that they can take care of everything that they normally serve. And I mentioned earlier as far as generator and where those locations are, and that we set up areas to be able to charge cell phones and areas that we're able to bring medication to that needs to be refrigerated. All of our teams work very diligently to make sure that we can plan and take care of whatever scenarios that we come across. Quick list of all of our departments here at the end of it, and every one of our employees I know are committed to be able to make sure that you stay safe and secure during whatever events that come upon us at whatever time that they may happen. And a little sunshine instead of all that clouds and doom through the whole presentation. A good picture of our island there, and if anybody has any questions, I will do my best to try to answer.
I'd like to talk about power restoration. Back in 2017, after that hurricane, whatever its name was, the eastern end of Sweet Gum Drive was out of power for 13 days. The western end got their power, I believe, in 9 days. At that time, Mr. Benke was still here, and I talked to Mr. Benke about that problem. And he assured me then that, well, what he told me was that the power grid map was outdated and that Duke Power didn't know that our little section of Sweet Gum Drive even existed. And it took a while to get to us. So I accepted the fact that he said he was going to take care of that. Let me that's better. Let me fast forward to 2022. The same thing happened. We were out of power for 9 days. our end was out of power for 9 days. And I believe 3 days earlier, the western end got fixed. And some little podunk electrical company from upper Michigan came in on that 9th day and figured it out and got it fixed. And we were very happy, and we recognized that it takes a long time. But my question is, what steps have been taken this time to make sure that doesn't happen again? It's frustrating when you know all your neighbors have power, but you don't.
So I would answer your question by saying that I don't have control of Duke Energy and all their sub-companies that come in and hire to come and correct power. I can tell you that I know every access point of power in our village. We have 7 incoming sources of power from different areas of our village that serve different parts of the village. And yes, the main feeds get up and running first. Always have, they do. I know, I believe in the one that you referred to first, I and Mr. Trainer and everybody kept going round and round trying to get them to get our power back up at Majestic Oaks. Because of where that power is fed from outside our village and through an industrial complex, it's the last thing that Duke thinks about bringing up. And so that got corrected, and acknowledgement from Duke that they now have that flagged as a priority because of the nursing home to bring that power up. Last year, during our power outage, I worked with those podunk companies that didn't seem to listen to my knowledge to tell them where that power is being fed from. Had 2 issues. They had an outage outside the village over in the Silverstone Circle area and along Monastery Drive that was not bringing the power to us. As soon as that power got restored, a transformer that sits on the corner of North Lake Drive and Eucalyptus was blown, so it took them another 24 to 36 hours to get them back out to look at that and get that one fixed. But I do everything in my power. I have a great contact with Duke Energy that is pretty much available for me 24/7 if I call and text him on it for me to be able to share and get activity out of them. And most of the time they do fairly well. We do run into those occasions, and I'm not going to stand up here and promise you that it's not going to happen again, because every situation and scenario is different. But I have a map that's on my office walls that does show where all of our power is fed from, so that pretty much anybody can take that map, look at it, meet up with a Duke employee, which I've done many times and talked about where I feel the problem is. I drive the village and look at the poles for those fuses that are on top of a pole for all 3 of the phases of power. And if I know a fuse is blown or dropped on it, I can take a pole number off and I send that information directly to my contact. And he's able to communicate back to the staff that's out in the field and give them that location.
Mark, I have a question on what did the engineer's report say about addressing the issue of the inadequate Floribunda retention pond and the associated flooding, how to resolve that situation so it's not repeated?
It is a ongoing active situation at this moment. We've been working with Harris Civil Engineering, is the contracting firm that we hired directly with. We have been in meetings with the city of Orange City on it. They are addressing the Graves Avenue and it's typically a dry lake bed on the other side to figure out where to go with that water. And we have also joined in with Orange City on a long-term plan to be able to set up with them permanent pumps in both of our bodies of water to actually pump that water and maintain that water level to a location that's several miles away. That all being said, immediate answers I don't have. We are still, the firm is still running some calculations to see if we can increase the capacity of either one of our dry retention ponds that are up at the front of the village along Majestic Oaks Court and right there at the gatehouse as it exits, along with being able to possibly enlarge or create a bigger basin of a retention pond out at Holly Branch.
So not any plan to increase the capacity of the Floribunda pond?
There's not the space right now.
Thank you. I'm Skip Britton, and we recently moved into the village, into one of the villas. And I'm just curious, do you have a criteria that you go by that would require us to leave the villa in the event of a hurricane? Or is that a subjective decision you make, or somebody makes, depending upon the severity of the storm, or under what conditions? I guess my question is, should we be prepared to leave the villa?
I'd answer your question two ways. You always want to think about and be prepared to leave if something happens to your particular cottage or unit. So that's basics, knowing what medications you need to grab, how much clothing, anticipating or looking at the length of time you'd be away. We are a shelter-in-place community. We are going to shelter in place in your individual units or cottages, or have to relocate you to a central commercial type building to be able to protect you during any type of disaster. Going once, going twice. Thank you very much.